e tu karakia. Whakatakata hau ki te uru, whakatakata hau ki te tonga, kia makina kina ki uta, kia mataratara ki tai, ehi aki ana te atukura, hei tio, hei huka, hei ho hu, tihe mauri ora.
Thank you, Phil. First of all, I'd just like to welcome Sandra Greenslade from Taupo District Council, who's here for Kevin Taylor, and congratulations to your Deputy Mayor on his daughter, winning a medal over in Paris, which I think Kevin still is celebrating. So welcome, Sandra. And also, I'd just like to mention it's David Spears' last meeting with us before he starts his new job. And David, I'd just like to say thank you very much for all the input that you put into this committee over the years. We're sorry to see you go, but wish you all the best in the new job. Health and safety, Dave, if you want to just give everyone a brief on that.
Good morning, everyone. The health and safety statement has been included in your agenda as normal. For those of you who haven't been here before, welcome. In the event of an emergency, please follow the directions of staff. The nearest fire exit is through the main chamber doors and to the left. There will be wardens and staff assisting in the event of an evacuation. And the meeting gathering point is across the road. Obviously, be aware of the traffic. If anyone has any questions or needs any assistance with that, please let staff know.
Thanks, David. We've got apologies, obviously, from Kevin Taylor, Eugene Patterson, and we've got lateness for Angus. Is it lateness or? Sure. Yeah, lateness for Angus. So can I have a mover and a seconder for those, please? Thank you, Rodney. And seconder by Claire. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. Confirmation of the agenda. Can I have a mover and a seconder that confirm that? Thank you, Andrea. And the seconder. Thanks, Rodney. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Just on today, we have got that workshop that was scheduled for 1:30. I perceive that this committee should finish by 12, so I'm hoping to have lunch between 12 and 12:30, and then we'll start that workshop early, so being Friday, so you can get away. So if everyone's happy with that, yep. Yeah, I appreciate if some can't make the workshop that has to head off at either lunch or after lunch, but that's the time frame we're going to kind of work towards. Okay, disclosures of interest. Any disclosures of interest for the agenda today or the meeting? If not, then we'll go to the public forum. Now, we've got two public forums this morning, one from New Zealand Equestrian Network, which we've got Julia online. Morning, Julia. Can you hear us? You might be on mute. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, hear you now. Yep, might have been us.
Yeah.
So, well, good morning, Julia. A very thorough report that you've given us. So we'll let you express your concerns, and yeah, you've got about 5 minutes, and then that leaves about 5 minutes for any questions, if that's okay.
Yes, I will do my absolute best to fit 5 minutes worth of information in, because day by day this topic is growing and it's a full-time job for me personally, and I'm happy with that, because that's the focus it deserves. So I come to you with the permission to speak on behalf of the entire equestrian community in New Zealand. I have united 31 organisations and groups to stand behind a formal push for this government to recognise horse riders as a vulnerable road user in this country formally. So we have a petition circulating at the moment that you're welcome to support individually, but the reason I'm speaking to you as the Regional Transport Committee and every single transport committee across the country is, number one, consistent messaging, and number two, to highlight the absolute failing in the current legislation in transport. In this country, petitions are verified, by the way, so everything I've stated in the petition has to be checked. And in this country, there is no formal definition of a vulnerable road user. It's left up to interpretation. Yet the European Commission is quite clear on what a vulnerable road user is, and it's a non-motorized, person thing, road worker, cyclist, pedestrian, rider on a horse, skateboarder. So it's clear overseas. The United Kingdom, which includes Scotland, Wales, and England, are very clear in their highway code. Horse riders have been a vulnerable road user for years, and in 2022 they updated their code to reflect more explicit messaging about how to approach and pass a horse rider and treatment with respect to road safety meetings. Ireland are leading the way with respect to their road safety messaging. Their road toll is reflective, I guess, of the extent of passion they put towards that. And in Australia, what gave me most hope was in May, in Victoria State, they churned out an inquiry into road user behaviour on vulnerable road users because they were concerned their road toll was not coming down post-COVID. And 56 recommendations came out of that inquiry, and one of them was to formally recognise horse riders as a vulnerable road user. Going into that inquiry, they were not. Coming out of it, after listening to the submissions and the near misses, the incidents and the behaviour and aggression on the roads, they are working towards that now. And speaking to the Australian representatives, they're quite confident that if it's passed in Victoria, then it will be rolled out across Australia. So New Zealand needs to lift its game with respect to how it treats horse riders. That we are capturing near miss stories because no one else does this work. And I can't sit comfortably and just let the stories go by, because the incidents are frequent and they're just a fatality waiting to happen. 2 incidents involving a truck, just meters in stopping as the horse was reacting to the speed and the proximity. You've got young children that go out with their parents, like my situation, where vehicles just are totally oblivious to the fact that you're on an animal with a mind of its own, and going far too close and far too fast can have horrific consequences. So we are partnering with all stakeholders that have a role to play in reducing trauma, injury and fatality on the road. And I'm pleased to say that it is so positive. I can't believe this work hasn't been done already. Just today, Ritchie's bus company, instantly, yes, we'll share your pass wide and slow messaging. Yesterday, the Bus Association, absolutely. We're a horse rider. We understand. You don't need to explain to us. We'll do it. New Zealand Police, partnering with respect to the pass wide and slow message. And as of yesterday, I've formally connected with Road Safety Strategic Team at Police Headquarters. So my aim there is to strengthen police understanding of complaints that are coming in and how we can change the behaviour mindset on the road together, because the abuse is not okay. And cyclists have similar stories. So the cycling community is starting to hear our message, and it's really positive with respect to the feedback coming in terms of support. As of those 31 equestrian organisations, we are rolling out an awareness ride for our vulnerability on the 14th and 15th of September. And it coincides, not my doing, but with a worldwide event run by the UK and South Africa, Australia, Canada, America, Ireland, and New Zealand for the first time. We have 41 registered rides, and it's fantastic to see, volunteers in their community stepping up. And despite the fact that they don't like to ride on the roads, they are prepared to raise awareness of our needs. So we are rolling out Viz vests, because I know you need to be doing what you can to, help with messaging. So the pass wide and slow message on the back of Viz vests, we're rolling them out. And I had $3,000 sponsorship from a trucking company to assist with that. Incredible. So yeah, that's happening on September the 14th and 15th. And by all means, if you can, why not support? Because other bikes and walkers are being invited to support, because at the end of the day, pass wide and slow is a fantastic message that can assist all when you're out on the road. What else can I share with you? I guess the regional transport committees across the country. You guys are number 6 that I've presented to. Earlier this week, Horizons. My daughter presented with me to Canterbury Regional Transport Committee and delivered a 3-minute speech on why horse riders don't feel safe on the road. And I swear I didn't need to be there. She had unanimous support after 3 minutes, because this isn't about just adults. This is about children. It's about setting the record straight going forward. I mean, I have an incident dating back to 1966 that's been relayed to me. So we have the support from Auckland Transport Board. We have the support from Auckland Transport Regional Committee, Canterbury Regional Committee straight away that day, and Nelson, Tasman, and what was the other one? Greater Wellington Regional Transport Committee.
Julia, sorry, I'm not to interrupt you. I can see your passion in this and also through your report. But yeah, so can I just ask the committee if there's any questions for you? Just because we're running out of time. Is that okay? Or would you like to say something just to finish up?
I guess what I would just like to clarify, what my request is from your team, is to formally recognise that we do have a legitimate case, and to write to the Ministry of Transport or the Minister himself that we do have a case that needs to be looked at.
Thanks, Julia. Any questions from the committee? Well, Julie, Angela, sorry.
Yes,
Yeah, thank you.
my way, please.
Hey, Julie. Yeah, thank you for your presentation today. Yeah, and your passion as well. It's fantastic to hear the support that you've had around the country so far. So yeah, I'd like to propose that we throw our support behind you as well in your campaign. And yeah, formally recognise that what you're doing is a great thing for all vulnerable road users. And yeah, I'll just put that out there to see what the response might be from our committee.
I support you. I second that, Angela. Julia, I come from Taupo, so it is a big horsey place. My 2 nieces are in the pony club down there and ride horses. So yeah, so I support it totally as well.
You get it. And
yeah.
I just need to say a huge thank you in terms of the instant feedback and not having to wait to hear. So thank you, Angela. Thank you, Chair. And thank you to the rest of the team, because local government is the receiver of grassroots concerns, and I appreciate you elevating this to another level where it deserves to be
Julia.
heard.
We've just got Angela that wants to make a comment.
It's the other Angela, Julia. Julia, I spent about 18 years as a competitive horse rider, so I know exactly what you're going through, and I got thrown off into a motorway once. So I understand. But Chair, so do we need to move a motion that we would write to the appropriate minister, or what is that response? Sorry?
Yeah, it's a public forum, but we can definitely advocate and bring that up in our next committee meeting.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thank you. Yeah.
And if I can share one more thing. A glacial breakthrough is that Waka Kotahi has agreed to look at our road safety messaging and to support it. So we can only do that because we have an incredible marketing person that is supporting this campaign, who used to work for Waka Kotahi in road safety messaging. So that's the credibility of this campaign is wonderful, and we are saving lives with the work that we do. So thank you very much for your support, and we'll see how it rolls in Parliament.
Okay, thank you, Julia, and thanks for your presentation and your time this morning for the committee. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next up, we've got, but he might not have shown up, is Roger, his presentation on the railway. So we take it all the committee read his presentation, and we have the, sorry? Yeah, it was. And I think, we all agree that probably railway does need a lot more investment in it and around the country. But we have got a presentation later on, agenda, but then on 7, where are we? update on Kiwi Rail, but Angus, the committee has asked that we give the full railway project update at a later meeting because we haven't got quite all the information for that. So did you want to say something?
Oh yeah, just from my reflections of reading the report, my take from it was that it was broader than just railway. It was about the potholes, road maintenance, that kind of thing as well. Yeah, road use charges. Yeah.
Yeah, so if anyone's got any questions for Roger then on his report, then you can send them to Dave and Dave can make sure they get to him. Okay, so we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the minutes of the confirmation and a receipt of all the minutes. Can we have a move and a seconder that all them are true and correct? Thank you, Rodney. A seconder, Andrea. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Okay, and then we've got the director's report. Brian and Nigel. A bit fast for you, Nigel, am I? Morning, Nigel. Morning, Brian.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, committee members. So we have the director's report for you. I, as per prior meetings, will take it as read, but we'll just highlight a couple of points that were made through the report. And again, very happy to take questions through the chair at the end. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. I'm conscious that I'm often a little bit quiet when it comes to speaking. Please tell me to speak up if you can't. There were approximately 8 key topics of interest, just to draw to the committee's attention. The first being the regional rating for public transport. Members will be aware of our first go at this piece of work, which went out through the Waikato Regional Council long-term plan. There was broad high-level support from WRC for taking on regional rating for public transport across the region. However, staff were directed to go away and find additional options for how that might be done. The first workshop of this has been undertaken, and we have another workshop coming up at the beginning of October for this. And so what staff are currently doing is preparing a series of rating options that will go out for consultation with our regional partners, and expect to see an engagement from staff and elected members with all of our councils over October and November this year. So we'll continue to develop these options through until the end of the year with a view that we can get a preferred, well-consulted option into the annual plan for consultation for the 25-26 annual plan. Because it's been a little bit of time since the committee met, I can confirm that we have lodged our regional land transport plan with the agency, and the next paper on the agenda is talking about the National Land Transport Plan program, I should say. That has been prepared, and so that's been incorporated and included for development in the NLTP. So I probably won't dwell on that one at the moment because we've got an opportunity to talk to that coming up. Per the committee's request, we have reintroduced a section in here for some road safety statistics. We noted that that was absent from prior reports, and this just continues to give a bit of an update and highlight just the ongoing road safety issue that we have within our region. You can see from some of the statistics we are still tracking relatively consistency. Nominal numbers are down, but as a proportion we're still tracking fairly consistently. Brian, to my left, has a lot of experience in this space in terms of national road safety. We're very, very pleased to have his support through this, so we can really highlight this. I've seen a few hands going up around the room, and I'm very happy to take questions as we go. Yep. Chair.
Okay, clear.
The question I had was to do with those road safety statistics. It's really great to get that info, but it's only about deaths. whereas serious injuries are also a real big concern too. In fact, I was wondering whether or not it might be more appropriate to, have a broader measure that includes those two, because that certainly has a big impact on our communities.
Yep. Yes, we can definitely upgrade and enhance, but I might turn to Brian for a response on that one.
Yeah.
Well, but news through the chair. Look, there is often a delay in terms of the serious injury stats, but I do agree with you. If we're talking about past years, we can certainly add those stats in, and it does give you a more comprehensive data set to look at and understand. So yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Mike? Yeah, just pull that down. Yeah, it's red. Yeah.
Right, thanks. Yeah, just on page 71 there, just around the same thing we're talking about, the deaths and things, just saw a stat, there's about 11,000 Ks of state highway in New Zealand, and I saw about 683 or something Ks has a median barriers of one shape or form. I guess as a region, how do we push to increase that? And I know there's work being done between Cambridge and Porelli, but they obviously make a difference, but it's quite a fraction of the network that's covered.
Going through the chair, we can, we know that with a median barrier, you get up to around a 65% reduction in DSI, so they're a highly effective infrastructure treatment. I would suggest maybe throwing over to David, because that's an advocacy role that we may have with NZTA potentially.
Is you really need to advocate as a regional transport committee that you want to see more of those barriers retrofitted. So new state highways will have them anyway. So Cambridge to Porelli, for example, when it's built, will have, as a matter of course, will have that centreline separation. But if you want to see retrofitting occurring, there's a process for that to occur, and you'll need to advocate for that pretty strongly. It's fair to say that program has been has less priority under the current GPS in favour of other investments than it had previously. So, yeah, your advocacy would be really, really important in putting that forward.
Thanks. Just to respond to that, I mean, it's really tragic when in the last couple of years you've seen deaths around Karapira area, and then the extensions went in which were planned, and you think, God, if they'd been in a few months earlier, people's lives would have been saved. So it's just something that this group, I think, should really advocate very strongly for.
Thanks, Mike. I think we also should have statistics on those. I noticed coming up from Taupo to Hamilton, the new barriers in the middle of the road, the cheese cutters, as they call them, motorcycle call them, is how many have hit those. I think because those, it'd be good to know that could have stopped a life being, taken, because there's an awful lot of those that I see that have been hit. So surely there must be some statistics that can be brought to this committee. David, have you got an answer to that?
Yep, we can certainly do that. We obviously, because of the maintenance requirements, we have a good record of how often they're hit. It's surprising how many times they are hit, actually. I can't remember the exact number, but it's strikingly high how many fatal crashes in New Zealand are the result of people crossing the centre line, not having a head-on crash, but running right across the opposite lane and into a hard object on the other side. And so they're not necessarily all head-on crashes that have been prevented, but they are all crashes that have been prevented. So yeah, we do have those stats. I will talk to the team about bringing those to your next regional transport committee.
Thanks, David. Sorry, Philip, and then we'll go to Sandra.
Thank you, Chair. Nigel, just going back to the personal regional rating for the public transport. It's a topic that's dear to my heart, and I'm not sure if this is the right item to be bringing it up in, but you say in paragraph 8 that you're going to have lots of catch-ups with the likes of the district councils to go and rehash what's already been talked about. Is that correct?
Correct. We will come back out with the revised options.
So the result from the previous meetings that we've had have been that the routes that we were hoping to get in place for Paira, Ngātea, the Hauraki region, were the rating was just going to be totally unaffordable for our ratepayers. and we came up with some different options, and nothing seems to have happened yet. So that's why I'm bringing it up now. It is important to us. The way it's, if we can't come to an arrangement there where we can set up a public transport network with WRC that's affordable, then we would like to put in place our own. And we've done the work on it. We can make it work. I think that's where our discussion's going to be this next time round, October, November. The other thing that I was going to bring up was the patronage usage in the graphs on page 80, where you've lumped KARAKIA with MPDC. And I think the graph is misleading because it mainly relates to MPDC's patronage usage, not KARAKIA's. And in the Eastern Connector consultation findings, where with that attachment that was given to us, they're still recommending that KARAKIA still only has the one drop off and pick up in Pyro, which is just not working. So obviously the message isn't getting through, and I just want to make sure we get some really solid action on this.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll take those notes and thank you for the heads up about what we'll talk about in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Sandra?
Thank you, Chair. I think I'm following on actually from what Philip has just said in his region and advocating for my own region in a very similar fashion. Looking at page 69, that was the question I was going to ask you, that you haven't come to any conclusions at this point. And again, we've got the similar situation where I represent the Taupo district of Turangi Tongariro ward, which does actually contain 25% of the ratepayers in that region. But of course, if you look at my ward, it's an absolutely huge area, and we operate a shoppers bus. I think it leaves at 12 o'clock and comes back at 3 o'clock. But we've got a town of 3,000 people who require employment, and the only employment available for them is in Taupo. There is no employment in our area. We're a tourism area, and people come to us for biking and the Tongariro crossing, and that's not jobs. So for our people looking forward, and especially on the back of the national government, who is now offering caseworkers every 2 weeks to get people into work, we can get the jobs, but we've got no way of getting there. So I don't know how this fits into your plan going forward. I suppose it will mean, as an elected representative, maybe I'll make sure, or Kevin will make sure, that he's at the table and we start advocating for people in isolated areas. The other point that I would actually like to make, and it is an unfortunate situation, probably not of your making, but the road between Taupo and Turangi is no longer on a high priority, possibly one of the worst roads in your region. I compared it in a recent article on Stuff about 2 weeks ago that some of you might have seen to the Amalfi Coast. Well, it's not quite the Amalfi Coast, but you've got a high on one side and you've got a drop on the other. That's a dangerous road for people to travel. So public transport, from a safety point of view, I think would be very, very high on my list of what we need to talk about. But we are an isolated region. I'm aware that our council didn't really support what was probably, I'm thinking they didn't understand it, perhaps, yes. And listening to Philip here, so we're sort of on the same page. If we can't get a public transport, then we've got to do something else. We've got to find another way. Any electric buses anywhere?
There's an electric bus in Taupo, but
well, maybe you should send it down to us, because I reckon we'd give you more patronage than they are. But just my voice. We are isolated, and we do need jobs, and the only way we're going to do it is by public transport. Thank you.
Noted. Thank you.
Yeah, just to reassure, that, Marianne, you go. Just to reassure that we've only had one workshop on this, and during that workshop, it was made clear that all TAs have to be well informed and go along with the ride as well. So before any decisions made, so it's just the start of it. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of consultation, and we all want to be part of that. On each of us, I want to be down there when the talks are with the Taupo District Council, as well as probably every other member of this committee would like to be at those talks as well. Mylene.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Nigel, for your report. I wonder if we can just get an update on the trials that were being looked at earlier in the year, public transport trials, particularly the routes in the Coromandel district, and who do we need to talk to just to keep updated on the status of those?
That will sit between my planning team and our PT Ops team, but we can come back. And so I don't have the data immediately here for you, but we can. I can take that as an action to bring back.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Andrew.
Thank you. Just a bit of feedback just with the relation to Mitamata is with Hobbiton and travellers that don't have their own vehicles, they are reliant on a bus service. And because we lack that connection with just the timing sometimes, I think we need to connect with Intercity to see if we can find ways to and perhaps work with our tourism sector so that they can inform the tourists as when the best time is for them to link with travel, maybe, because as there's a way around that, because I know with us changing that bus run in Matamata I know one of the drivers, and she says she has a lot of Hobbiton tourists get dropped off at our site needing to catch a bus. But yeah, I sort of try not to work in isolation, that we have a coordinated approach. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Angela?
Yeah, yeah, it's great to hear all the discussion around public transport in the wider region. Just reminding everyone that this is the forum for that conversation to happen. So it's fantastic to hear from yourself, Philip, and Sandra as well. Just wanted to pick up on a point that Councillor Perrott made about the medium barriers and our role as advocates for that. Yeah, I really do agree with what's been said there, and with the focus being shifted currently away from those sorts of safety measures, given what the tragedy that did happen on State Highway 1 in South Auckland recently. We really do need to advocate for our region. 20%, sitting at 20% consistently is it's not good enough. You know, we need to do what we can to protect everyone in our region, everyone travelling through our region as well. So yeah, I'd really just back up what Councillor Perrott said and really urge us to take that stronger advocacy around road safety as well, and whatever that might look like. So in this case, those medium barriers for those roads that have been mentioned. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Right, Nigel, any?
Thank you. Oh no, that's thank you, members, for that feedback. I've taken notes all over my piece of paper, and I can see our director is doing very much the same there. So we'll come back to you with those points that you've raised, and really appreciate that feedback. Probably just a couple of things just to finish off this report. Earlier in August, we're in September now. Back in August, we had the Fleet Day. The annual Fleet Day delivered in partnership with eRoads. Again, the focus of the event this year was road safety, sustainability and fleet efficiency for our heavy and light commercial vehicles. Another excellent success story with this one. I've been reliably informed that the event was fully sold out with 1,200 people, which justified moving it out to Mystery Creek this year because we exceeded the capacity of Claudelands, where it has been held in prior years. That increase of 400 people is a 50% increase over the 800 that we had last year. So this has grown from very humble beginnings and is a real fixture in the annual calendar for partners that deliver or have fleet and deliver road safety. Right, so again, thank you for your ongoing support of that one, and we'll see how many numbers we get next year. But no, thank you. Just a quick update on community transport. Planning is underway for the 2025 symposium to bring the community transport sector together. So that's scheduled to be held at the Jet Park in Hamilton on the 12th of March next year. The theme of that symposium is sustainability, and that's sustainability from both like an environmental contribution perspective, but also about how do we continue to support on the community transport sector itself, noting that much of it is driven by volunteers, and those volunteers are ageing. So how do we continue to support this? So that's the theme of next year. When that comes out, we will be encouraging elected members to attend. So please just note that for coming out next year. And then second to last item, the Regional Council has contributed to our transport staff have contributed to a Regional Council submission on the New Zealand's second emission reduction plan. So some of the key policies just noted within that plan are enabling 10,000 public electric vehicle charging points by 2030, continuing to review regulatory barriers for zero emission heavy vehicle uptake, and then working with other countries on sustainable aviation fuels and low and zero carbon shipping on trade routes by 2035, and supporting PT in key areas. So that does have a little bit of it does differ significantly from the initial emissions reduction plan. And so again, we've been supportive of that. The full submission is available on the Regional Council website. Last item is just to note that the NZTA is proposing to increase the private share of public transport expenditure, so third-party contributions, including fares and advertising. So we've received the notice of NZTA's intention to work with us on that, and so this is fully in keeping with what was signalled through the 2024 GPS. So we'll continue to update the committee in terms of where we're going with that one. And so there will be continued engagement opportunities between WRC as the Public Transport Authority and NZTA between now and the end of the year. So we'll bring that progress back. That's the Director's report, Chair. Again, happy to take any further questions, noting we've had a few already.
But thank you.
No.
Oh, yeah, Rodney.
I'm just curious about, you may be able to help. Going back to like the medium, the cheese cutters, as you call them. The new trucks we're buying have all got like lane departure. So if you go outside your lane, they beep and they turn the steering wheel back. Is there any kind of thought from NZTA to make that kind of like, so every new vehicle that goes on the road has to have that sort of technology? Or I'm sure it's in cars and everything, Is that a more proactive? Because I mean, to put wire ropes down the middle of the roads is going to take years. But even to put lane departure in cars would take years, but it might make it faster, if you know what I mean?
There's a piece of work that has started a wee while back looking at how we better use technology in the safety context. And that's spilled over into things like e-rucks, for example, as well. I mean, modern cars, internal technology is extraordinary. The problem we've got in New Zealand is we've got one of the world's oldest fleets of vehicles and trucks, as well as private vehicles. And the process to upgrade those would take really, really, really long time. But we are actually doing some work on exactly that. Because you're right, Rodney, that technology ultimately will surpass the need for physical barriers.
Yeah, like in Australia, for instance, it's I don't know if it's all states, but some states you have to have anti-collision like braking. So if the trucks get too close, they automatically have to brake.
Yeah,
which means trucks have to be automatic. But but that's where they're going. So they would actually put in
It's no accident that when you look at the crash stats in New Zealand, professional drivers are very, very, very low in terms of representation. But it's because they're driving modern vehicles that have got all that stuff, facilities. Whereas the average private car user in New Zealand is probably driving a 15-year-old car, probably older in some cases, or definitely older.
Technically, if you made it mandatory now in 15 years' time,
Yeah, and so that's a huge policy.
It would probably be faster than getting wire ropes in the middle of every road, I think. Just a thought.
Okay, thanks. So we've got a resolution here that the Director's report be received. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Thanks, Claire, and a seconder. Thanks, Philip. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Okay, we've got now the National Land Transport Plan. So Nigel and Brian, and I think David's going to join in as well. So we'll just let Nigel finish his full slide before we have questions. Is that okay, Nigel?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you, Chair. As the Chair noted, we do have a short presentation here. Members might be aware that the National Land Transport Plan was announced on Monday by the Minister, and we've had some of the technical detail come through to us over the course of this week, and we've provided a little bit of an assessment against the RLTP and just highlighting some of the stats that come out of it. The paper that you've got in your agenda pack was mostly to enable us to have this discussion this morning. So very happy for any questions to come through. But as the Chair mentioned, we'll work through the slides and then have the discussion at the end of it. If you could advance to the next slide, please, Dave. So for those who have seen it or have had it emailed, NZTA have produced a regional summary of the NLTP investment. It goes alongside a suite of them that relate to regions around the country, but we do have some for the we do have that summary for the Waikato. Some of those stats have just been pulled out and popped up on the screen in front of you there. And so again, as that first statement comes up, the investment again follows advice in the GPS, and NZTA are the agency tasked with delivering on the investment objectives of the GPS. And so what we see is investment targeted at creating a more efficient, safe and resilient roading network, supporting economic growth and prosperity. And that comes out in nearly the second paragraph in our summary. What we do see is there's $1.9 billion forecast to be invested here in the Waikato over the next 3 years. And as you can see, there's a little bit of a breakdown there about where that investment comes. 403 million against maintenance and operations, 802 million against pothole investment, 562 million for improvement activities, 138 million for PT investment, 4.3 million for forecast safety investment, and 9.6 for walking and cycling. So those are the high level stats that we've got coming through. Again, significant numbers there that we're looking at. Maybe a little down from where we've been in the RLTP, but still a good spread of regional investment. If we could go to the next slide, please, Dave. What I've done, I did an initial assessment just on the activities that we had, and I haven't done the entire list. It's not exhaustive, but what I did do was have a look at the top priorities that we'd signalled through the RLTP to see where some of these activities landed. So it's got the amount that we'd applied for in the RLTP, and then an indicated funding status, which was picked up out of Transport Investment Online, our online database, and then matched to the proposed dollars for those particular activities. In some areas, you'll see significant uplift. In others, we haven't been successful in our advocacy through that one. And so again, what I will end up doing is a full line-by-line assessment of that and looking at that against the objective areas of our RLTP. So I just want to note I haven't had the opportunity to do that yet, but I will come back to the committee on what that looks like. But for the most part, we have been successful with our advocacy. So the time that this committee has spent has been worth it, and resulted in good confirmation through that, but noting that we do still have some gaps, and we'll have a chat about that in a few moments. If we go to the next slide, please, Dave.
Just finish the slides, or do you want to?
I'm just wondering if I can if I can address that with Nigel while that slide's up on the screen. Okay. Because obviously what we're looking at there is dramatically different from where we started.
Yep.
And the news for the Coromandel region is catastrophic. If I can not to, it's not good. So
no, it's not.
Can I get your thoughts on that? Where we started, how we got there, and where it leaves us?
I think as a region, we advocated as best we could. We know that it goes into a national development process. I'm probably not in the best position to be able to comment on the outcomes of the process, so I may defer to David. And I spoke to David about this beforehand. He knew this question was coming, but unfortunately, I may just have to refer to NZTA on this one. Yourself.
So just Yep, the advocacy was good. The process has led us to an outcome where the resilience across the whole country funding has been substantially less than what was asked for. $6 billion, I think, was the ask, and it's 1 billion or 1 point something billion that's allocated. So that has meant that huge sums of money that have been asked that simply aren't available. We have, without wanting to get into the detail of line by line, so before you ask all of those questions, what we've done is we've booked a meeting with each of your councils over the next 2 or 3 weeks, face-to-face meetings, which we will bring our investment advisors and literally sit down with you and go line by line. Our investment advisors got the NLTP the morning and you got it in the afternoon. So we're still working with it in terms of what are the implications for some of the projects. But we're going to come and sit down and say, okay, well, what does that mean? And in your case, Aileen and I have already started that conversation about, okay, what the hell does that mean on the Coromandel, and what do we do with the 21 million that is there instead of the nearly 300 million that we would have liked. In fact, we would have liked 600 million.
The 800 million that we started with.
Yeah, so we do have to have some pretty serious.
So page 45 of the NLTP talks about this. The state highway network is a lifeline for communities, etc. We'll prioritise and build resilience into the network by improving drainage and stabilising slips at high-risk locations, especially in the Thames Coromandel and Hauraki districts. So the policy is there. It just doesn't seem to be funded. So that's what you'll be addressing with us.
Yeah. So what is there is a significant increase in funding. If you go back to that first line, oh, don't worry, that Phil actually is a huge investment on $10.1 billion on the existing network maintenance. So a lot of what we were thinking about as resilience has come through into NZTA's budget and expectations on us to deliver a really ramped up maintenance program, which is a lot of what you're describing there, Len. So the actual maintenance of the state highway network will go up quite considerably as a consequence of that once we tool up. There'll be a lag because it will take us a while to get tooled up into that space. So and that's why I think it's important that we come and have that individual conversation with each of you, because I think a lot of what we expected to do as resilience is resilience, but it's come through a different pathway, which is state highway maintenance instead. But we need to unpick that. So
will
that
you
it's
be
really
part of those
I will
conversations?
Well,
meetings?
Yes, I'll be part of all of them.
Thank you. Thank you, Nigel. Thank you, Mr. Chair and David. That's not sure that's got us there yet, but it certainly sounds like we're heading in the right direction.
We'll let you finish off, Nigel, with the slides.
Oh, thank you, Chair, and thank you for that commentary. Thank you, David. Just the next just highlights a few notes on the activities. So some of the big wins that we got were the confirmation of the Roads of National Significance projects, Cambridge to Piarere and Southern Links. They were ranked highly in the RLTP, and many of those activities in that significant activities list have had the go-ahead, obviously barring Coromandel. One area of good news for the Coromandel was the confirmation of the bridges being confirmed as they came through. We have seen some reduced investment in PT walking and cycling, and there were some of the numbers up front. I've got a couple of slides here just looking at where PT came in, and I think some areas that were reduced we have been able to minimise through early engagement with the agency. But what we have seen is that these areas of reduction don't necessarily fit with some of the aspirational I guess, activities for change that we've identified through our plan, and in particular within the metro spatial area. We saw a lot of those activities withdrawn. We were advised of that early on for agency contribution, and then followed up with a reduction in that across the program at the local level too. So we're going to need to continue to have a conversation in this area about how we continue to deliver on our goals of emission reduction and enhancing urban mobility. And then just noting from from our perspective, safety has come up a number of times this morning already. The summary states road safety remains a high priority for the region. One of the observations that we've had, Brian can probably speak to this quite strongly too, just noting that building and upgrading road infrastructure to higher safety standards won't be the final solution to everything that we experience here in the region. So whilst the RONS projects are excellent, we've got some significant investment, generally a short segment of the corridor, other ways that we can advocate for, and we've heard about the centre road barriers and the like. So again, coming back to an earlier question for David, advocacy will continue to be really important for our region. Next slide, please, Dave. Oh, this just is a callback to the note on the public transport investment. This specifically identifies the public transport continuous program. Again, the team here have been really engaged with NZTA in the development of the program. As you can see, there have been a few areas here where there has been effectively minimal reduction in terms of what we've seen. So again, I think that this can, as noted there, it's primarily down to different indexation assumptions there, but otherwise we've been fairly successful with what we've got, and that represents a lot of significant time spent up front working with the agency to work on that. The next slide highlights the low cost, low risk funding for PT improvement. As you can see there, the figures are down significantly from what had been applied. Probably just of note, talking with the team earlier, for trials that are underway, we've continued to have the funding approved. What this will mean is we'll have to be fairly careful about what we do as a committee, and both here and the Future Proof Public Transport Subcommittee for ongoing investment, and it will really require some prioritisation. And then the next slide actually just highlights some of the, oh, sorry, Director.
Just to let the committee know that we'll circulate these slides to you, so you're taking photos, so yeah.
And just a comment on that last slide, the dollars that were supported, oh, yeah, going to cover it on this one.
We'll come back and we'll let Phil have first comment on the final one. But just noting here, this is your final slide before we'll just go into discussion within the room. So we have had, as just mentioned, a few of those activities confirmed through there. That's in the top left-hand side box there. There have been a few unfunded PT activities that we've noted, real-time information, CCTV, enhanced retailer network and EV charging solutions. And then the balance that we have there are the new services and enhancements that are identified, and that's what will need to be prioritised for investment over the coming 3 years. I might leave it there, but I know, Phil, you got a few comments?
Just to summarise that comment, the dollars that were approved under the low cost, low risk were for the list of existing trials that are at the top left of that slide. Everything else is unfunded. So there's no money for those new services or enhancements or the infrastructure piece.
So, right, thank you, Nigel.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you, Chair. I'm happy to open that to the floor. I won't be able to answer everything, but we do have David here, and between us, we can take some notes to come back, but I'm happy to take questions through you, Chair.
Any questions from the committee, Mike?
Yeah, just one. I haven't got the page right in front of me, but Telegraph Road?
State Highway 1B?
Yes.
Yep.
And so it's going into a pot. What's the likelihood or timeframes do we think of possibly seeing that road reopened?
That's a very good question, Councillor. I may defer to the agency on it. It was an activity. I can note that it was an activity that we had in the RLTP that didn't necessarily come through in the NLTP with confirmed funding, but noting that there are wider area treatments that come through, but I may just defer to David for a response on that one.
So it's, yeah, in the NLTP, it was unfunded. That said, we had already committed to finding some alternative solutions that don't require a $12 million investment. We are very, very close to a design that will, we think, get across the line in terms of Kiwi Rail's requirements, and are working on the sort of final details of that before we progress to implementation of a solution. There's a little bit of water to go under the bridge, but not very much. But yeah, the NLT, it's not funded through the NLTP, so we'll have to find some other ways of funding that.
Thanks for that.
Okay, any more questions for David or Sandra?
Thank you, Chair. Not sure who this question is really, probably for you, David. I'm interested in Te Poraporo or Bully Point and $12 million. Have you got any more detail on that at this point?
Conversation is probably best had when we come to council, because there's actually a bunch of things we need to talk through there. There's there were two line items around Bully Point. Both of them have indicatively been funded. One is to look at the long-term solution, which we accept is not the existing alignment. So there's a lot of work to start there, notwithstanding that many years ago there was a route designed, and we're very cognizant of what that route looks like. Land ownership's changed there, potentially for the better, in terms of ease of progressing that. So we've got some funding to progress that early exploration and design work, and then we've got some funding to do some short-term immediate fixes in terms of removing some rock, slight realignments that will make the existing Bully Point situation slightly safer. But I'm not going to say it's going to fix the problem, because it won't. It will make it safer.
Exactly. Thank you very much, David. I'm just very mindful $12 million would go a long way to putting a good bus service in there. Because that road, I mean, it's all right to say we're going to realign it and we're going to do that. There's nowhere to go. You can take a bit of rock out, but you've got the lake on the other side, and we've got a very, very windy. And the problem we've got, of course, is these massive trucks that go through there day and night. And so, you know, it's sort of, to me, a bit sticking plasterish.
Oh, look, and yeah, I'm not hiding from the fact that Bully Point will remain an issue. A bus is not going to fix the issue we have. The issue we have is very large trucks traversing that area, and in a way that's not safe. We need to do that first. That's the highest priority. And you know, I've heard it any number of times at this committee. It's only a matter of time before a truck goes over with something nasty in it, or somebody gets killed. So that's why we're prioritising that short-term fix with a view to the longer-term fix.
Thanks, David. Okay, any more questions? Oh, sorry, Angela.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just had a quick question around PT infrastructure. What's in, what's not in, going back to that slide of what's not covered with the low cost, low risk. Most of those activities do enhance their customer experience. We heard a lot about real-time passenger information, especially for our vulnerable users, the young, the old, who don't maybe have smartphones. They can see when the next bus is coming. So you're just keen to hear what's in.
Sorry, I laugh nervously, Councillor Strange, mostly because I don't have that specific detail available for you. That bottom table there does note that a lot of those activities have been unfunded through that. But,
yeah, and in effect, we sought the funding from this source because we were declined at the 11th hour for the Climate Emissions Response Fund funding. Some of those things would have been in under that process, but were held at the point of the election. So the alternative we were provided with was to apply for that funding through this programme, and that's now been declined as well. We're hoping that some of that work, certainly within the transport centre, the real-time signs are included in scope for the rejuvenation of the transport centre project. So they'll be in at that location, but the wider network of signs across the city is something we need to continue thinking about.
Yeah, I would think that out in the wider network would be more of a priority than say at the transport centre. Yeah, just thinking of intermediate age kids on the side of the road waiting for the next bus. EV charging solutions and our move towards decarbonising the fleet within Hamilton. Do you have any update on the timing of those?
So the wider review and the establishment of the process of renewing all of our bus service contracts is underway, and we obviously have some very clear targets and policy direction within the regional PT plan. This announcement doesn't change that, and the list of new services on the right-hand side of that slide we sought the funding through this channel because it was potentially more efficient for us to do that than vary contracts. But there will be a point where we need to go through the renewal of those contracts, and the consideration of all of those projects and a whole load of other changes to the bus network will all be included within that contract renewal process. But that's now some years away, as you know. So the gap that we see then appearing is between what we had requested within the programme for this year and next year and the year after being pushed out to the point where those contract processes go through and are established. And as you know, we are working to a national requirement to that no new diesel buses can be brought into New Zealand after 2025, and all emitting public transport vehicles have to be off the network by 2035. So those constraints haven't changed with this updated emissions reduction plan. So they are still consistent with the RPTP and the things we have to achieve within the changes we make. This news takes away a significant amount of the funding that was going to drive that change over the next 3 years.
Do you have any level of comfort that the aspirations and the goals within the RPTP will be delivered in a timely manner?
I guess the challenge of electrifying the entire country's public transport vehicle fleet is a growing cost to the agency. And in the context of, I'll maybe let David speak to this in a bit more detail, but my perception is in the context of a government policy statement that has reduced the funding for that area, the opportunity for the agency to fund that transition is under significant pressure. So how the journey between where we are now and what we are required to achieve within 2 years or 1.5 years is achieved when there is no more money from central government is a question for David to answer.
I don't know enough about the national program to give you a rational answer. What I can tell you is at the moment with the current GPS, the focus, $6.1 billion, I think 5 billion of it, the focus is on Auckland and Wellington passenger transport, and that is very much around ensuring and I mean, Angus is online. Angus will be able to talk more from the rail point of view, but that is very much about the combination of rail and public transport. But there is no other money to look at the wider electrification of the national network at the moment, or to implement that. And the cost would be significant. Angus will have a better idea than I would of that, but it's substantial. And that money is not forecast in the current GPS.
Right. Yeah. Are you coming to our council as well?
Yes, I'm going to do a little roadie. It'll be my.
Before you start your new job.
They're not going to be fun meetings, but they'll be my last ones.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll delve into the detail then. Yeah. Thank you.
Philip, did you have a comment? Did you want to ask a question?
I was just going to clarify whether that right-hand graph fell under the heading unfunded activities, and Nigel said all.
Yep. Okay, if there's no more questions for Nigel, David or Brian, the resolution on the board is that the report national plan transport plan be received. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Thank you. And all hands, yep, Rodney, and a seconder. Thank you, Andrea. All those in favour? Those against? Passed. Okay, we'll have one more item before we have morning tea, and that's the operations update from Trudy and Vince. Morning, Vince. Morning, Trudy.
Good morning, Chair and members of committees. Trudy and I today will be here to talk about the PT operational update report. And with your permission, Chair, I would like to take the report as read, but perhaps just highlight a few things from within the report. So overall, there has been a very encouraging sign across our bus and rail network over Q2 this year. As you will see from the report, there's been about 18% patronage growth across the entire regions in terms of quarterly comparisons or over the last 12 months. From the dashboard, you see there are a lot of positive trend and signs across our bus network. And not just for Hamilton, we're starting to see much stronger growth in areas such as Waipa, MPDC, KARAKIA and Taupo, as a result of some of the improvements that we were able to roll out over the last 12 months. Te Huia service is also performing really well, and not just from a passenger standpoint, but also from the customer survey result. The overall quality of service and other features have been rated highly by its users. Overall, we're very pleased with the result for this quarter and last financial year. We know this report did not include the Q3 data, which will pick up the network performance post the fee changes. So this will come in the next report. The staff will provide a more detailed analysis around the fee changes and how this may impact around our patronage performance. Also in the report, you'll see that we've added the bus user profile, which show the composition of our users and by different network areas as well. And there's some really interesting result, especially the spread of users on various routes across the regions. And so we intend to keep this part of reporting as part of a regular RTC report around the user profile and the changes over time. Also for the next report, we intend to introduce the financial performance as well. So we want to provide a bit more data around the fare box or the private shares by route or by network areas. So this will come into the next reporting. I think all in all, I think there's a lot of detailed numbers and graphs, but I'll be happy to take questions.
Thank you, Vince. Have you got anything to add, Trudy? Any questions for Vince and Trudy on those? Yep, sorry, Jeanette.
I just wanted to ask about the Tikawiti connector. And I see on page 90, the patronage numbers have increased quite dramatically. And at the previous meeting, I think both Rodney and I asked for some breakdown on those figures as to where the people were getting on the buses, whether they're getting on in Tikawiti or Otahonga or Waipa. Because both of our councils ceased funding for that connector, and it had been partly funded by the educational institutes. So, and I feel a bit guilty about the fact that it's actually listed as one of the LCLR funded projects. Can you just bring us up to date on what the costs are and what that patronage is, how much of it is in each of our districts, so that we can understand that?
Okay, so I don't have the data at hand in terms of the, I guess, the loading from each district area, but we can supply that information. And with regard to funding, I think yes, as you see from previous slides, it was one of the approved projects for the low cost low risk funding over the next 3 years. But my understanding is there hasn't been any confirmation around the local share from the Waitomo and Otahonga Council. District Council. So we intend to have a separate conversation with the districts around the funding element, just to make sure we've got the local share.
The conversation had been had, and it is definitely not included in our long-term plan on the basis of the patron numbers that we were given. So yeah, I'm not sure how we progress that conversation because we did ask last time as well.
Yeah.
Tomo.
Okay.
And Rodney, please. Thank you.
We'll go to Philip and then Claire.
Thank you, Chair. Just on that, the patronage numbers, I made the comment earlier regarding MPCD and KARAKIA being put in the same graph. And could I request that KARAKIA and MPCD separated in those graphs to give a true reflection? Thanks.
Just keep your mic on, Vince. Yeah, Claire.
Yeah, thanks. I was actually going to comment on the fantastic increase in the Waipa services patronage. I mean, that is really pleasing to see. And I think that the increased frequency of the services and the electric buses have made a really big difference. And we really appreciate the support of the Regional Council with this. I'd just like to comment on page 81. It says that the boarding numbers for early morning and late evening trips have been relatively flat. But we have been, we've had some feedback that people might not be using that service, but they really need it to be available just in case. Well, especially the evening one, you know, because it means that they will take, say, you know, in like a 5 or a 6 o'clock one, because they know if they miss that bus, there's another one. Yeah, so I think it's quite important to sort of maintain that spread. Yeah, just to give people confidence to use it. That's all. And then I'd just like to support what Jeanette said about the connector thing for Tikuri, Waitomo and Mochonga and Waipa, because we would be interested in that. I didn't realise that you guys weren't possibly funding it for the LTP, because I think it's important for us to have good information so we can make a good decision, because I do know that there'll be students that have been relying on it. Yeah, so I want to make sure we understand the impact. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. Yep, Mike.
Through the chair, just to back up what Claire said about that huge increase in patronage from Waipa, which sort of fits in with the home of champions that we are, and falls in line with the many medals that Waipa produced at the last Olympics.
Thank you for that, Mike.
I just worry that maybe people aren't shopping locally. That might be the other challenge for you.
Okay, yes, Sandra.
Thank you very much, Chair. Can we look at page 90 in the Taupo one, when you could talk about connect to Taupo? Is that the Turangi bus you're talking about? It is. So if you look at those figures there, would you suggest that that's oversubscribed?
Yes, I think the performance have been really strong. We've noticed that.
So again, I'm advocating for more public transport, because when I know what we've got issue there at present is if you hop on that bus and go up to Taupo for the day and somebody stayed overnight with their friends, you may not get on the bus to come home that night. And that has happened to a number of friends of mine who've called me in desperation and said, please come and pick me up. I can't get home. So, you know, it would be quite nice. I know we'd like to have our buses full, but just occasionally to have 1 or 2 spare seats on it would be really helpful.
Just to add to that, within the Regional Public Transport Network report that we have later in the agenda, there's a commitment for us to commence a review of those services in Taupo, because we are aware of that issue and looking to utilise the capacity within that contract to get better outcomes, particularly on that route that you've mentioned. So we'll cover that slightly later in the meeting.
Thanks, Sandra. Okay, if there's no more questions, got a resolution that the report of the operations update be received. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Thank you. Thank you, Claire, and a seconder. Thank you, Philip. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Okay, we'll take a 10-minute break till 5 to 11. Grab a coffee and have a stretch.